Hello, I'm Will Joe. I'm currently a doctoral candidate at UT Austin, and today I'll be presenting a plume-surface interaction study we have done this year at the Lunar and Planetary Institute as Exploration Science Summer Interns, which is a 10-week program. Note, this is part of a larger hazard study that we're also planning to present at next year's LPSC, so please stay in tune for that as well. Next slide, please. The biggest concern with Human Landing System, or HLS, which will be the main vehicle for landing astronauts on the moon in Artemis 3 and 4 missions, is that compared to Apollo, it'll be more than 7 times taller and 10 times heavier. And this could mean that plume surface interactions could be more hazardous in terms of instrument, habitation, or superficial layer damage, as well as trigger mass wasting events or problems of visibility and stability during landing. The manufacturers of HLS could possibly use thrusters near the very top of the lander to mitigate the effect of plume impingement, since upper thrusters won't directly interact with the soil underneath during the last stages of landing. However, numbers showing the differences by placing thrusters in the top or the bottom of HLS and how it changed plume surface interactions have not yet been investigated thoroughly. Next slide. So the main goals for this project are to compare the scale of erosion and far-field particle impacts from two HLS configurations versus the Apollo lunar module, and to identify the most suitable HLS configuration that reduces contamination and energetic impacts. So we compare the plume surface interactions between the descent of Apollo lander and two configurations of HLS, one with the upper thrusters placed at 33 meters from the base and one with the lower thrusters placed at 1 meters from the base. We have developed the plume impingement solver, or LPIS, to solve for the near field erosion and far field ejecta impacts of only regolith particles for a descending lander. And in this code, we're assuming that sets of multiple engines are represented as one big engine for simplicity. Next slide, please. So for LPIS, we use the erosion mass flux equation from Metzger's recent paper and properties of the nozzle gas at the surface from Roberts to solve for the excavation profile and the total displaced mass using the domain shown to the left, represented here as concentric cylinders. In Metzger's erosion mass flux equation, we also assume a scaling factor of 3 times 10 to the negative 5 in order to fit lunar module observations from Apollo of plume impingement at the surface. This helps to account for the uncertainty in the constants chosen in the mass flux equation, and without it, the displacement mass will be, as well as the depth, will be much, much larger. We also assume the Apollo 16 particle size distribution to convert mass to individual particles and inject these with speeds derived from the rarefied spherical drag ordinary differential equation at a launch angle of 3 degrees, and record the displacement of these regolith particles in longitudinal area bins through planetary ballistics. Next slide. So we first plot their near field erosion evolution in the figure to the left, which shows excavation depth in centimeters and distance from the lander in meters, and track as well as the altitude of the lander with respect to time. And also, we descend at 1 meters per second from a starting altitude of 31.5. I wrote 32.5 here. That's a mistake. It's supposed to be 31.5, which comprises the planned vertical portion of descent from Apollo. This altitude, can you click once, please? Is around 5 times the Apollo lander height. Click once more. Now we descend the spacecraft and watch the evolution, and we find that the maximum excavation depth from these simulations is around 2 centimeters and displaces a total mass of 2.7 tons, which is really close to the observed quantities recovered for the Apollo lunar module with the scaling factor defined from earlier. Also, if we were to consider erosion region as a depth greater than 1 micron, then this region will reach a diameter of around 72 meters. Next slide. We then simulate the excavation profiles for a 100-ton HLS with upper thrusters and lower thrusters. And again, we plot the excavation depth as a function of distance from the lander. The lander altitude is now set to 250 meters in order to keep geometric similarity of 5 times the lander height with respect to Apollo. Click once, please. We also descend not at a constant rate, but decelerating from negative 11 to negative 1 meters per second in order to keep simulation time and vertical landing time to a reasonable value. Click once more. We can now see the profile evolution from HLS, and we show that the erosion depth is around 1/3 of a centimeter for the upper thrusters at maximum, and around 6 centimeters for the lower thrusters, assuming the same scaling factor as previously mentioned. The mass displaced will be around 70 tons for the upper thrusters and around 100 tons for the lower thrusters. And if we use their predefined excavation definition of erosion region, then this region will have a diameter of around 500 meters for the upper thrusters and 760 meters for the lower thrusters. Next slide. If you now track the far-field impacts generated by the Apollo lander descent and record the amount of particles landed of sizes 1 micron to 1 millimeter, we obtain a plot of impact count as a function of distance from the spacecraft landing point on the left. For Apollo, in a region less than 100 meters from the lander, It's expected that a surface density of 10 billion regular particles per square meter will contaminate the surface. And on the opposite side of the moon, it is expected that a surface density of around 100 particles per square meter will contaminate the surface. So much smaller. On the right figure, we plot impact surface density counts for particles that have a kinetic energy much larger than 10 to the negative 7 joules, also as a function of distance away from the lander. We find that one way of comparing instrument damage between Apollo and HLS will be using a prior example of an instrument damaged by Plume-Surface interactions. Surveyor 3 is a really good example of this. The damage done to that specific spacecraft by Apollo, which is located around 100 to 200 meters from the Apollo 12 landing site, can be quantified with a surface density of around 1 million parts per square meter. It was likely caused by the impact in the order of 10 micron sized particles. Now, if we place a point on the energy threshold plot on the right, click once, please. Right here, we show that using this threshold energy curve fits well with the damage data found on Surveyor 3. So for our HLS study, we use this threshold energy and show later that the range of damage does increase with a heavier lander like HLS. Next slide. Now, if we compare the total impact counts from both upper and lower thrusters for HLS, we see that the upper thruster configuration will limit particles to less than 10 kilometers from the landing site, while lower thruster configuration will allow regolith particles that will reach the other side of the moon. This impact surface density will be around 5,000 particles per square meter. And from these plots, we see that the impact counts have increased by a factor of between 10 to 100 times larger, and we should expect that HLS landing should cover a maximum 1 micron layer of the upper surface near the lander. Next slide. Now, if we compare using our energy threshold of 10 to the negative 7 joules found earlier for Apollo and plot unit impact counts as a function of thruster location, and if we place a line, click once, there we go, of 1 million particles per square meter to match the surface impact density of particles that hit Surveyor 3, we show that one will need to go further than half a kilometer away for HLS with upper thrusters and 5 kilometers for HLS with lower thrusters in order to find similar damage found on Surveyor 3. Anything within these ranges for HLS will receive a much larger impact surface density and a much greater grain impact energy than that of Surveyor 3. And at the maximum, it expected that HLS will create 10 times more pitting damage than what Apollo has given for for a Surveyor like spacecraft. So 10 million particles per square meter will impact or damage instead of compared to 1 million. Next slide. If we visualize the effects of HLS plume surface impingement on a map shown to the left, we find that even the upper thrusters will still cover a region greater than the Artemis exploration zone, shown in that green square. And if one were to land at the center, one will have to travel out beyond the maximum displacement rover distance done by the Apollo 17 mission to find soil not affected by the impact of ejected products from HLS. And certainly the Artemis 3 mission will only find soil covered by HLS. Next slide. If we were to assume that Artemis 3 will use a similar size large scoop as Apollo, it expected that the contamination from HLS would be in the scale of around 100 parts per million at 100 meters away from the landing point and around 10 parts per million at a distance of 1 kilometer out. And 10 kilometers out, this number should just be diluted to less than a part per million, but the overall effect near the spacecraft line should be more than 10 times worse for HLS than any thruster than Apollo. Next slide. Finally, here's a visualization of the ranges where instrument damage caused by HLS will be much worse than the damage found on Surveyor 3 from the Apollo Plume-Surface interactions. And work on this map can be refined further if instrument damage ratings in the form of maximum impact surface density and maximum particle impact energy are defined for future instruments or structures for bases. Next, we conclude with these 4 takeaways, which are HLS will be much worse in terms of regolith displacement than Apollo. Number 2, upper thruster is much preferred as it limits contamination and instrument damage. Number 3, at least the upper micron layer of the surface should be wiped off for sample collection as the main regular particles lofted by HLS, but this could be more. Number 4, instrumentation and bases should be placed further than half a kilometer with upper thrusters and 5 kilometers with lower thrusters to avoid similar damage found in Surveyor 3. The very last slide. That concludes my talk today. I'd like to thank my colleagues at the LPI this summer, as well as my advisor, Dr. David Kring, for his support with this project. And we would like to acknowledge Drs. David Goldstein of UT Austin and Parvati Pram from the Applied Physics Laboratory at Johns Hopkins University for their assistance with this study. That concludes my talk. Thank you for listening in.